beautiful fall evening. My brother and his wife are coming over for supper, so I'm gonna make some pizza for us. This reminds me of one time. It was a fall evening, but it was not beautiful unless you like really cold and damp weather. Me and Mom had been gone from home all day. It was 5:30 when we came home. We were at one of our neighbors helping them get ready for church. We came home and my brother, who loves being in the kitchen, was making pizza. He loves making pizza. I don't know, does he still to this day or not, but he was like 12 years old and he had already made the pizza crust and everything. All we had to do was put the toppings on, and we did not want pizza for supper that night, or at least me and Mom didn't. We had already planned on making some kind of soup, but then we were stuck making pizza. We weren't very happy with him at the moment, but later we were kind of thinking about him. We were like, yeah, he was kind of ambitious. That was actually really good. So every time I make pizza, I always think of him. And there's a reason he could make it even though Amish boys aren't usually in the kitchen, because this pizza is really easy to make. You just add some seasonings and salt for your dough, and we're gonna add some oil to it. I also added some sugar, and it's not that fussy when you're measuring the oil and the sugar as long as you get some in there. Then we're also going to add some yeast. I would usually buy my yeast in jars, but apparently I didn't have any instant yeast on hand except for this little pack, so that's what we're using because all the others was active dry yeast. There's a difference between active dry yeast and instant yeast. Instant yeast you just use like this. You put it directly into your dough. Active dry yeast, you have to pre-soak it in sugar and water or something so it can rise a little bit or activate before you add it into the rest of your stuff. Now we're also going to add some warm water to this, and this has to be just the right temperature so the yeast doesn't burn. Just mix that stuff together a little, and if you don't want to use sugar, you can just use honey. That actually makes the dough a little bit softer, but for some reason I decided to use sugar tonight. Then we're gonna start adding flour. You can measure it. There's measurements in the recipe, but I've been making this for many years, and I know exactly how the dough is supposed to feel to make it nice. So I'm just going to add it a little bit at a time and knead it in until it feels right. I'm done kneading my dough now, and I was daydreaming and forgot to show you guys that I greased my bowl. So now we're going to cover this and just let it rise for about 5 to 10 minutes at room temperature. For the toppings, you can do whatever you want. At home, the bare minimum for us was ground beef, which was usually canned because we couldn't have fresh ground beef unless we had just butchered. And the only time we butchered was during the winter. But our bare minimum would always be ground beef, pizza sauce, which we made ourselves and canned during the summer, and then we'd have cheese. That was the bare minimum. Now we would usually have onions. Sometimes we didn't have any if we would run out before our other ones were ready, because we would always grow enough during the summer to supposedly last us the whole year, but sometimes the crop didn't do as good. Then we wouldn't have quite enough to last us the whole year, and then we would have to buy more, and if we didn't buy more and sometimes ran out, we wouldn't use onions. Then oftentimes we would also use sweet peppers. Now usually we would can those too. I should show you guys how to can them. It's really simple, and I love canned sweet peppers. And then cheese on top. And if we were really balling, we would eat mushrooms with it. Now that was a rare treat. I'm not gonna do sweet peppers tonight because I don't think my brother likes them very much, so I'm just gonna do an onion yet. I'm done chopping these up and my dough is ready to be rolled out, so we're gonna roll it out on this pan. I like to grease my pan a little. I'm just gonna spray it a little. You don't want to do it too much or your dough is just gonna roll around on there and not spread out. I always use this little wooden rolling pin thing. One batch of this dough is enough for one cookie sheet. At home for the whole family, we would always make 2 cookie sheets and there was usually none left. Once you have that nicely rolled out, cover it again and let it rise for at least 15 minutes. Make sure your toppings are all ready in those 15 minutes. While that's rising, I have to shred some cheese and then brown some ground beef. Brown the beef, I always just grease my pan with some butter or oil, and then we put the beef right in there. I'm gonna do 1 pound for that cookie sheet. That's what we always did at home. We canned our ground beef in White Mouse quart jars, and 1 quart is 2 pounds. And if you can it, it has a lot different taste and texture than this fresh stuff. I'm gonna add a little bit of salt to my beef so it's not as bland on the pizza. Just lightly chop it up while it's browning so you don't have too big of hamburger chunks on your pizza. Our beef is still a little bit raw, but that is fine because we still stick the pizza in the oven to bake it. So now we're gonna go assemble everything. Now for these toppings, I'm going to take my pizza sauce and mix it into the meat so it spreads out more more evenly. And if you guys want me to make this pizza sauce, just let me know. I have made it before and you guys loved it, but it was a long time ago, so I can do it again. It's actually really simple, doesn't take any complicated ingredients. I'm just gonna mix this together and then spread it on top of this evenly. Now I'm gonna put the onions on top of that. You don't have to do onions if you don't want to. My mom couldn't eat onions while she was breastfeeding, so we always had to take a corner out that didn't have onions so she could eat that. Then we're gonna go in with the mushrooms and the cheese. We're gonna put on once the pizza is almost done because we just want the cheese to melt. Now because I don't want the mushrooms to just dry up when I'm baking them, I'm gonna lightly spray them with some olive oil, or avocado oil it is, not olive oil. I don't know if I'm weird for this, but I'm not a big fan of the taste of olive oil. We're gonna stick this in the oven and bake it until the crust is done. It takes about 15 minutes. Our pizza's smelling very divine. It's ready for the cheese to be put on top. Now this just goes back in the oven to melt the cheese, which will not take long. This pizza's out of the oven now. I'm gonna cut a piece out and I'm using my Rada pizza cutter. My favorite. I have a couple, but this one is always the one I go to first. If you guys want Rada products, they're highly recommended by the Amish. I have their website on my website. This is also Rada. This is what our pizza looks like. Let's take a bite and see if it's good. It's delicious, but it's missing something. Applesauce. Applesauce makes pizza so good. And especially if it's homemade applesauce. I showed you guys how to make that. Just dollop some applesauce right on top there and you're good to go. If you guys want this pizza crust recipe, you can use whatever toppings you want, but the pizza crust recipe and the instructions and everything are in my cookbook under Easy Peasy Pizza. The cookbook is on my website, socialsbylavina.com, over here on my profile, or depending what platform you're on, it might be in the caption of this video. Go try this. See if your family likes it and enjoy.